Hey everyone, happy Friday. Before we get into this week's reading, collective energy has been the collective energy over the last several years has been very volatile. It's been it just simply is a lot of times extremely intense, anxious, depressive. It's one big, huge ass freak out pretty much all the time. And what tends to happen these days is, okay, let's start with what used to happen. So collective energy used to have kind of just be like, and every once in a while, something would happen. We'd freak out. It would drop back to the baseline. That was in the past. What we get now is we started, with that kind of even every once in a while, a freak out, going back. So we're going along, and then we had a freak out. We didn't go back down. We maintained that level of anxiety and freak out. And then the next one comes, and then we maintain that one. So what we've hit at this point with collective energy is the freakouts, we never come back down. We never readjust to an original baseline. So each time we have a freak out and we spike in collective freak out, we have to get used to that new freak out. And we had a major one at the beginning of the week. So take care of yourself, drink your water, electrolytes, rest if you're feeling tired. Check in and make sure that energy is yours. First thing I do whenever I start freaking out right now, I don't even question anymore. Is it mine? I just immediately test for collective. And some of my most anxious points, triggers for anxiety, have been from the collective outside energy. Make sure you're checking in and make sure it's not the collective that has you tweaking out. Because if you have being a sensitive, medium, empath, anything like that, just a freaking human being with feelings counts at this point. It's not even the people who pick this stuff up anymore getting hit with it. It's everyone. And it's kind of painful. And it's kind of scary. And you're like, why am I feeling this way? It's not you. I'd say 95% of the time right now, it's the collective impacting your natural inclination to whether it's anxiety, depression, internalizing, externalizing, anger, whatever it is that is your go-to. Mine is anxiety for right now. Sometimes depression with this. Check in with those feelings. It can really help you okay, I know what I need to do and clear that energy. And maybe we'll throw a short energy clearing on to the end of this video just because I feel like we always need to be clearing energy right now. So let's just, okay, I'm going to uncross my legs. You can see the light coming. Woohoo. Crossing my legs. Uncross your legs. Uncross your body. Get square. And let's take 3 deep breaths and then get into the reading. So inhaling. Just let the oxygen fill you up. Exhale out anything you don't need. Let's do it again. A noisy exhale stimulates the parasympathetic networks in your body. Last inhale, exhaling. Okay, let's get into what this week's reading is. We have the Morgan Greer in the Chakra Worlds cards that I created for a class. Okay, pile 1. We have, I said Morgan Greer and Chakra Worlds cards. So we have 5 of Cups and the Vishuddha, throat chakra. So what this is saying to me is, where are you feeling like you can't speak? Where are you shutting down your voice? Because when you start to shut down your voice, you tend to get that feeling of the 5 of Cups. It's like you've kicked over all your cups and you can't do anything about it and you can't say anything about it. And you feel really constricted about what you can say. And that's not good, especially if this is taking place in a relationship. You really need to evaluate how you can express yourself in a healthy manner and how that's being received. And if it's not, if you can't do that, you really need to reevaluate that relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship. And there are certain times where, yes, with this collective energy spike, other people may simply just get triggered and freak out too, because they're already freaked out because of the collective energy. But when you have to shut down what you need to say, and I'm not talking about being a jerk or anything like that. This is not the people who say, oh, I'm going to be brutally honest, or, you know, you're not going to like this. This is going to hurt. This is not that kind of thing of where you're attempting to, you know, tell it like it is another one. I find those are all kind of key words for like, I'm going to be a jerk right now and not try and be compassionate in my speech. That, you know, speech should include your compassion. Your heart and your throat should work together to bring you into a state of compassion when you speak. But if you're feeling shut down, that is so not good. You want to start to work ways to bring that throat chakra into alignment with what you're saying and say what you need to say. And women are often, you know, shunted aside as speaking what they want to see. They're often skipped over. So there can be a lot of reasons why you feel like your cups have been kicked over and you can't say what you want to say. Work into that. Even if you have to say to yourself in the mirror, hey me, this is what I gotta say. Start there. You can always start with yourself and then work your way out into the greater world when it comes to this stuff. But really, look at how your inability to speak or your fear of speaking is making life kind of miserable, because Five of Cups is never really the most fun card to get. You know, the fives tend to be the Debbie Downer number as it is. At least it's not the Five of Swords. But so we got, how can you bring the heart and the throat chakra together to speak your truths, say what you need to say, and be healthy within your relationships by communicating those needs? It's like was it not 90 Day? Married at First Sight was on the TV, and it just was in the background as I was doing stuff. And one of the guys is like, would not tell the lady they got married at first sight with what he needed because she wouldn't do it. It's like, dude, if you don't tell her what she needs, what your needs are, so she can try to fill them, no, she's never going to do that. She will always fail your test because she's not whatever enough, is you haven't told her. That is an example of this. So if you're doing that, you're just not going to do it anyways, because no, I'm not going to tell you. Really, try saying, hey, this is my need. I need you to be a bit more supportive in this aspect of my life. As opposed to just being like, yeah, you got to guess that stuff and figure it out, but you failed. But I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to help you be successful in meeting my needs. That would be an example of this. Because the woman's never going to be able to meet the guy's needs because he won't tell her. Don't be that person. Say your needs. Be like, hey, I feel like I need a little bit more on this support, at home, or whatever it is. So let's move on to pile 2. Alrighty, so we have the Queen of Rods and the Upper World. The Queen of Rods is here really in a creative aspect of how can we see things in a new light. And the Upper World is reminding us, as much as we visualize, we need to check, because I know visualization is a really popular technique of getting to your goals. But sometimes you got to step back from the visualization and check in and see what's happening in the real life outside of that visualization. Visualization. Because sometimes it's showing up in ways you don't expect it to do. And if you're constantly just picturing it one way and it's not showing up that way, you're going to miss what you need to find. And so the Queen of Rods is here saying, hey, we already have this huge flow going with the Upper World of being in the energies that we need to be in, let's get creative about it. How can you see your flow in different ways? What other ways could you visualize that this might happen? And using reality as the base of what's happening. I'm just like, every time I touch my face right now, I'm like, oops. Luckily, I've been nowhere and I just washed my hands. But yeah, the flow, creativity, fire. How can you bring these two together? And she's got a lot of water in her because she's the watery part of fire, is the Queen of Rods. So you have dreams, intuition, all playing into this. The upper world's backing you up with all this. Whether you use whoever your guides are, if you work with angels, this is a good time to really bring in your angelic friends. Things like light language, all those things that really connect you to the universe in a very high vibe. High frequency. I'm not sure what. I always try to avoid high vibe because it tends to be a bit of a bypassing. And we're not bypassing. We are trying to get what we're moving out of bypassing and out of visualization of what might happen, but it's not happening. Does that make sense? So really get clear. Take a step back from how you're seeing it happen and get creative about how it might be showing up currently. Because I know this kind of stuff, I do daily and weekly pulls, and the fairy cards saved my butt one time because I have this visualization going on and I'm visualizing how this is going to happen. And the fairy cards are like, it's going to happen a different way. It's going to happen a different way. And sure as anything, it did not happen the way I visualized. And if I would not have been paying attention to cards like these two, I would have totally missed it. But since I wasn't paying attention to the cards that I was pulling, and they're saying, hey, your visualization may not be, how it's going to show up. It's going to show up in a way you don't think it will. And that's exactly what it did. So that's what these two are reminding of us. Great to visualize. Awesome to have that happen. But if it's not showing up the way it's supposed to in your visualization, you got to be aware also of what's going on outside of the head. How are things showing up? Or you just might miss it when it shows up. And bring in the angels, things like that. Your guides, your higher self, however you want to think of it, and use that to help you figure it out. Okay, pile 3. Alrighty, so for pile 3, we have the 7 of Swords and Gaia Gateway. So these two together said to me, where are you feeling like an imposter? Where are you feeling like, I'm just not what I say I am for whatever reason? And this might be an internal dialogue you have with yourself and are working on, or it can be an external person, a person saying like, you don't know anything. So first off, if it's you telling yourself you're not the most awesome thing ever, and I'm not talking like in a, unhumble way. This is like, your stuff. And chances are a lot of times when we're feeling imposter syndrome, we really need to reinforce that feeling of wonder, awe, enchantment, and just how freaking brilliant we often are. But then we talk ourselves out of it. There can be a tendency, much like intuition, to be like, yeah, this is like the best thing ever, and I got this really great idea. But I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect enough. I'm not this. And it's like intuition when you get that big, strong hit and you're like, yeah, I know it. And then 3 hours later, you're like, maybe. And by the time you go to bed, you're like totally talked yourself out of that huge intuitive hit. That's the same kind of thing we're seeing here. It's like, you have this brilliant idea or whatever it is. And you're like, yeah. And then 3 hours later, you're like, maybe it's not so brilliant. And by the time you're gone to bed, you're like, yeah, I'm just not what I say I am. I'm an imposter. No, 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 no. Skip that dialogue with yourself. Do you know how much energy that takes? It takes a ton of energy. And really, when you're dealing with the collective energy that you can't really avoid because you're alive, and then you're like kicking your own butt, oh my God, how exhausting. And I know this because I've done stuff like this. I know how exhausting it is. It's really exhausting. Skip the talking to yourself out step. Stop feeling like you're a thief in the night about your ideas or what you do or what you're creating. If you draw, if you doodle, you are an artist. You don't have to make big things. You can be a fun artist and just do it because it's fun. You don't have to sell, you don't have to turn your hobby into a side gig. You can just enjoy it, and that does not make you an imposter. That makes you an artist. One example that came to my head first, because I'm an artist, and you often have this conversation with yourself, what really makes you an artist, and really doing art makes you an artist is what I've come to. So if this is an external person, you really want to think why you're interacting with that person. And the one thing with my return to Twitter I have learned is that Twitter has really good boundaries for the most part. It's like, yeah, that person should block, mute, unfollow. But there's a lot of people on Twitter. It's like, yeah, if you're going to be a total jerk, they're not going to even take it. They're going to block you. Whereas I find in a lot of other social media, we don't quite have such strong boundaries towards internet jerks. So if it's a jerk on the internet, delete, block, unfollow, whatever you have to do to not hear them. Because good chances are, if they're making you feel like an imposter and putting you down instead of supporting you, do you really want them in your life? Do you really want them showing up in your social media feed? And it has nothing to do with about having a broad experience. It has everything to do about setting boundaries and dealing with jerks. If this person's in real life as a friend, you really want to look at how and why you're interacting with them on a real life basis. And in some cases, if it's, a work situation, you may not have as much control as a personal situation. But, if your coworker is going to be a jerk, they're going to be a jerk. You're not going to change that. Don't expect them to, one day show up to work not being a jerk. Just accept what they are and watch out for the jerkness. And do not internalize they're being a jerk when they tell you, creepy things. Like, you're not good enough, or whatever it is. Or whatever you hear up here when they say things. So, alrighty. That is this week's reading. So, how I feel, it's like, how are you setting up your boundaries and things like that? Really pay attention to where your boundaries are. That's going to help with your kind of subculture collective of who you interact with on a daily basis. Always ask yourself right now, when you start feeling intense emotions, is this mine or is this the collective? Really should be the first question you ask at this point in time. Is it the collective? And I'm going to say 95% of the time right now, it's going to be a huge collective energy freak out hitting you. Or amplifying what you're already prone to, which can be just kind of a bummer too. Okay, I'm going to grab the crystal pyramid and let's do an energy clearing. Alrighty, just let this sink in and let it be what it is for you. Feel the vibration of every pore clearing out the energy you do not need. Alrighty, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Take a deep breath. Exhale it. Do it again. Breathe in love. Exhaling anything that's no longer needed. Move back into the world with love in your heart, compassion in your speech, and go out there and be the love in the world. Alrighty. Bye-bye.